Well, good morning and welcome to Elevenses. Apologies for the slight delay in getting started there. Just as I sat down, the doorbell went. My partner had something delivered, which she didn't tell me about. But we're here. Morning to Clive, who's looking in already. Right, okay, we've got some news again for you on the show today. The big news is for bikers, I suppose, is that the DVSA have given CBT and schools the go-ahead to get back to work. Bikers are out. The sun's been shining. It's not today, mind. And bikers are out getting booked as well. So have a quick talk about that. Mental health links a bike manufacturer to the charity called Calm. Oxfordshire Fire Service are launching a new rider safety initiative. SuperSoco have actually produced a new second generation electric motorcycle called the Street Hunter, which we'll also have a look at. And the better biking tip today is to watch out for mirrorless vehicles. Now, the only slight hitch is that my carefully prepared selection of still photos seems to have gone down the pan again, and I don't quite know why that was. I was trying to sort that out when the doorbell rang. Anyway, on with the news. Some good news basically for the rider training industry and all those riders who've been left out in the cold by expired CBT certificates due to the shutdown, which has now lasted 4.5 months in many parts of the country. You'll recall that the government's roadmap out of England's lockdown, at least, was published 2 weeks or so ago on Monday the 22nd. And when I looked at the rules, I took them to mean that rider training, because it takes place in an outdoor environment and I would be delivering it one-to-one, could restart on Monday 29th of March. So that was the date I set for my own post-test training courses. However, the DVSA promptly announced that training and testing would only restart on Monday 12th of April, along with some warnings of action against any approved training schools that didn't comply with those dates. And that was the same date as close contact services such as hairdressers and beauticians were allowed to reopen. Now, the interesting thing was that a week or so later, the Met Police obviously read the rules in the same way as I did, and they announced that they would restart bike safe courses in London here on the next available weekend date after the 29th, which is the Easter weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 4th and 5th of April. So on Monday, a release came round from the DVSA to say that they had changed their minds and that, in fact, motorcycle training and CBTs in England would be allowed to restart on the Monday 29th of March date, with the proviso, of course, that unless coronavirus data prevents government from easing restrictions as set out in step 1 of the roadmap. And before we get too excited, it is worth remembering there is that proviso that each step out of lockdown will be reviewed a week prior to the date of the step, and the dates could be revised. Anyway, back to the CBT announcement. How did it come about? Well, we're told now that the DVSA have been working with government and stakeholders to agree restart dates for motorcycle lessons and tests. Well, the MCIA is certainly keen to take credit. They said they spoke out and ministers listened and acted accordingly. But what is fairly certain is that no one at the DVSA seems to have paid much attention to the individual training school owners who've been badgering them for information for months. There's also no word from the newly formed Motorcycle Council that I mentioned a few weeks back. So here are the revised dates. If all goes to plan, CBTs and on-road training for the motorcycle test can restart on Monday 29th of March, as can Module 1 training sessions on the motorcycle manoeuvring areas. That's the sort of multi-purpose test centres where you take the Mod 1 test. The practical tests themselves, Mod 1 and Mod 2, and theory tests will restart on 12th of April 2021. There are separate rules for cars, incidentally. So why the change? Well, DVSA put a positive spin on it, saying it's to give training schools and candidates more time for tuition ahead of their tests, but it's more likely they finally realised that the 12th of April date actually complied with guidelines for indoor environments, and I'm wondering whether the resumption of bike safe courses actually tipped their hand. Whatever the reason, the MCIA did conclude that for the sector, this is great news, as government were not willing to offer a temporary extension for expiring CBT certificates. Therefore, it will be much appreciated by commuters, delivery riders, and key riders that rely on this form of transport. Yes, absolutely, and in spades. Something else to say is that DVSA have now shared their COVID guidance for examiners with rider training associations, which have in turn updated good practice guidance for instructors. Now, I've not seen that yet. It is apparently available on the DVSA website. I'll go and have a look for that. So I'll have a look at it and make sure that I'm not missing anything personally when I resume my training, but I'm fairly confident that I probably haven't. One more thing to note, if you are a key worker and you are one of those who has already got a test booked because you need the driving skills for your job, practical and theory tests already booked will go ahead as scheduled. So this is only new work, basically. And last but not least, don't forget this applies to England, Scotland and Wales will have their own plans and timetables. Right. Okay, so good morning, Paul and Nigel, who are both looking in. So with that in mind, I will also remind you that I'm taking bookings from road training from Monday the 29th onwards. I've already got a few in diary, but I've still got some slots available over the Easter weekend. So if the weather is looking good, why not grab an early date for a course? You can consider my riding refresher, which will be a nice gentle coaching session as a reintroduction to riding if you feel that you might need just a little bit of a helping hand to get out on two wheels. That's what I recommend for you. Don't forget, I've got convenient start points on the north and south circular roads, so that's convenient for anybody who lives in London, and I've also got starting points around the M25 which are within easy reach of any of the counties surrounding the city. And I'm also be delivering online coaching, of course, 1 hour sessions, and you can take those, of course, wherever you live. And last, of course, don't forget, I'm also delivering group presentations, and I've got several of those in the diary or booked, and I've just delivered a couple as well. So if you want a group session to help your group get back on the road, now's the time to book up. All right, okay, but before we have our get all excited about getting back out on the road, don't forget it's not over till it's over, as the expression goes. As I mentioned on my Facebook page on Sunday's Elevenses show, when the sun was shining, it's incredibly tempting to get the bike out and go and meet out with a few friends and go riding. And in fact, I was reading something on one of the Facebook pages with somebody asking, what harm can it do? We're all socially distanced and we're wearing helmets. Well, as of now, I'm afraid the stay-at-home regulations remain in force, and that means we are restricted to essential journeys only. Someone else used the excuse that other people are breaking the lockdown as a justification for going out on their bike. Well, so what? That doesn't make it right for us to break it too. That particularly applies, I think, to bikers, because we have a pretty bad reputation already in the media. You remember a bunch of stories hit the national press last spring, and you can't make it much more obvious, basically, that you're flouting lockdown than by going out in a group, particularly if you've got a few bikers in the group with loud cans. That will guarantee you attract attention along the way. I thought, that was about as daft as you could get, but it got dafter, of course, because you can advertise your meetup on social media where anyone can read it. And yes, guess who read it? Well, there was a meet at Finchingfield, and it was read by Essex Police, who promptly put a post up to say that they would be there to meet and greet those riders if they were intending to actually head out on their planned ride to Finchingfield. And somebody did put up a photograph, which I wanted to show you this morning, but I can't due to the little glitch of the bikers. Actually, the police bikes all parked up by the pond in Finchingfield. And of course, just as quickly, social media was used by bikers to warn riders to avoid the area. Just the same, they didn't say don't go riding, they just said don't go riding in Finchingfield. Now, okay, serious side of that though, riding is a recreational activity, and it obviously allows us to get out of the house. It allows us to enjoy the challenge of flying the bike. That certainly appeals to me. And you can just get out into nature and as well and just potter around in the countryside, which is something else I very much enjoy doing, as well as, of course, just using the bike for work purposes, something I'm very much looking forward to getting back to doing. So for a lot of riders, of course, there is an important social side of riding. It's the interactions of meeting and getting out with other riders which matters. And, you know, pandemic has put a hold on all that, hasn't it? We are not being able to go riding, and that means a lot of us have suffered quite a long isolation if we're not in, you know, a job where we actually need to get out the house, like mine. I've been stuck indoors for a long time. Now, some of us have found other ways of interacting. That's what I'm doing right now, although I will admit that I'm mostly talking, you're mostly listening. But I know that some people are feeling cut off, and the biking community age demographic is unfortunately that which fits the at-risk group for male suicide, that is middle-aged men. And our age group finds it very difficult to talk about mental health problems generally. So I was quite intrigued to hear that Royal Enfield and a suicide prevention charity called CALM have joined forces. CALM stands for the Campaign Against Living Miserably. I'm not entirely sure about that acronym, but there we go. But basically, the idea is that they provide frontline support for those facing crisis points or feeling like just like they need to talk to someone. And Royal Enfield will be supporting a one-year partnership with them working on a new campaign called Open It Up, and that basically is going to provide lots of fundraising initiatives and attempts to raise awareness of mental health issue. And basically the press release says that Royal Enfield will leverage its nationwide network of dealerships and community to instigate a program that will deliver both calm support services throughout their sales and marketing areas and via their own campaigns. So George Cheeseman, who's the country manager for Royal Enfield, said, "We're pleased to be able to provide support for CALM. The issues around mental health have never been more critical to both discuss and to action. We're always talking about the mental freedom that biking affords. It's no secret that the major part of the appeal is going for a ride on an amazing, machinery beautiful surrounded, a wonderful way to clear your head." And he goes on to say they're really excited about this partnership with CALM. Meanwhile, Simon Gunning, speaking for CALM as their CEO, says, "We're always looking for new ways to encourage behavioural change and tackle the stigma that prevents people talking about mental health. And going out on your motorbike, getting together and connecting with motorcycle enthusiasts is a great and simple way of doing that. People are relaxed in a familiar environment and more likely to open up." So basically, that's what that is all about. There is a website at thecalmzone.net, but it doesn't actually say very much about this new initiative just yet. Right, Sue's just looked in. Hi, good to see you, Sue. Hope you're now connected. Okay, so what else is in the news then? Well, Oxfordshire Fire and Rescue Service are the latest organisation to launch what is described as a hard-hitting motorcycle safety campaign to prevent the growing number of motorcyclists becoming victims of road traffic accidents. At the risk of sounding a bit negative, where have we heard that before? Obviously, the timing is appropriate with spring on the way and lockdown liable to come to an end. He says, hopefully, in just a couple of weeks, there will be a lot of rusty riders out there. The man behind it is a chap called Andy Ford, who I know through my work on Science of Being Seen. I've met him at a couple of conferences, and he said motorcyclists are overrepresented in collision and casualty statistics locally and nationally, and that's something we're determined to change. With increasing numbers of people taking to two wheels, our aim is to encourage riders to do all they can to ride safe and stay safe. So basically, Ride Safe involves Oxfordshire County Council's Fire and Rescue Service, and they will be organising awareness events, as they put it, with local riders to highlight the importance of bike maintenance, wearing proper kit, and the benefits of further rider training. Motorcyclists are being encouraged to improve their riding skills and hazard awareness. And again, as you probably expect, you get a fairly standard sort of rollout of statements. In this case, it's the Councillor Judith Heathcote, who's the Cabinet Member for Community Safety at Oxford County Council. And she says motorcyclists are among the most vulnerable road users, but they can play a big part in keeping themselves safe. I encourage every motorcyclist to ride responsibly, wear all the necessary safety clothing, travel at safe speeds, appropriate to the conditions they face, and attend one of our Ride Safe sessions. All right, and so on and so on. I don't want to sound too negative about this, and I might talk about this on a later date. But it strikes me that we hear this kind of statement over and over and over again, and of course, nothing much happens, because it's all about promoting the idea that better skills equals safer biking. And if you followed my work for the last 20 years and more, you'll know that that's not the way it works, at least not in my opinion, and not in the opinion of other industries that are involved in errors and safety. It's all very well to say behave better, but most riders are not nutcases. Most riders are not doing daft things on motorcycles. We sometimes enjoy a bit of excitement and a bit of speed, but nobody sets out to crash. That's the really important thing to understand. It's easy retrospectively to say that somebody did something in one particular place that was reckless, but they had to get there first of all. And many riders crash at the end of a ride, and when they've been behaving in a perfectly sensible fashion. How many times have you heard somebody say, well, I never expected him or her to crash, but they do. And this is the reason that I do what I do, is to try to persuade all of us to think twice about how we ride, but fundamentally to expect things to go wrong, to approach riding with an understanding of how, where, when, and why things go wrong, and then what we can do about it when they do. And I do feel that we need to recalibrate road safety campaigns like this. Keith has just said the Ride Safer campaign is a Thames Valley initiative with 3 fire services. Yes, that's absolutely correct. It includes Royal Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, and as well as Thames Valley Police. So, okay. As I say, I don't want to sound very negative about that, but I do feel that fresh ideas need to be injected into these kind of schemes. So I know you're listening out there, Keith. Many apologies. I know you well, and we would have worked together successfully in the past. But it's something. Sometimes I do get a bit hot under the collar about these things. All right, okay, so let's round off today's show then. And I would have liked to have shown you a picture of this. I'll put it in the comment stream later. It's another electric motorcycle, but what caught my eye about this particular story is that we're now seeing second generation electric bikes beginning to appear. Now, some of the more established brands like Zero, for example, have made significant strides in technology and design because they've been around quite a while. I got a test ride on a Zero 2 years ago and was thoroughly impressed with it, but they had one of their old original machines out on the stand next to the new model, just as a comparison, and it really was chalk and cheese. The original Zero did look like something built in a shed. The new Zero was a very smart machine indeed, and I thoroughly enjoyed riding it. But the newer brands are also now making that step up. SuperSoco came to my attention last year during lockdown 1 because they offered a discount to key workers to buy one of their bikes as an alternative to public transport when it shut down. And what they've just done is they've updated their range with the TS Street Hunter, which is really quite a modern looking machine. Now, it's not going to set the world alight if you're a performance freak or even just somebody who needs to do some motorway commuting. It's not the bike for you. It is aimed squarely at the urban commuter. It's got a 2.5 kilowatt hub motor, and it will push the bike to 45 miles per hour flat out. So not much use for the M25, but it will get you down the Euston Road no problem at all. And like all electric motors, one of the things that's really noticeable is that the torque output is enormous, 180 Newton meters of torque. So it won't take long to get to its top speed. What does it come with? Well, riding modes, of course. Every bike now has to have riding modes. So the Street Hunter is no exception, and it has a 3-stage system. More importantly, possibly, is the riding comfort, which has a new low-slung seat. And somebody... new seat with triple density padding and split rear grab rails added for the passenger. Sorry, I've just got a nuisance call on the phone. Right, let's get rid of that. You also get a USB charging port. Lights are full LEDs, so that's headlight, tail light, and turn lights. Instrument clusters digital. You get a range and display as well as your riding mode. You get clock and air temperature as well. Stopping power is from conventional front and rear discs. I'm not sure if there is a hub motor offering the regenerative braking that it could do, and the standard brakes are combined. What else do you get? 17-inch wheels, and the battery packs are interesting because, again, there's an option for either 1 or 2 32 amp battery packs, and basically with both combined you get around 3.8 kilowatts of power, and that should shove you along for about 125 miles, and that should do for a good couple of days urban commuting for most riders. Full battery charge takes 3.5 hours, so if you've got 2 battery packs you could put one in, leave the other one at home charging, I guess. It's physically compact and light. With 1 battery in it, it's just 102 kilos. Now compare that with a typical 125 petrol engine. People have this idea that electric motorcycles are heavy. They are increasingly losing that weight that the early ones had. Less obviously useful are aerodynamic winglets. I can't imagine they have much stability benefits, which is what SuperSoco claim at 45 miles an hour. Price is yet to be announced, but the bigger brother, a 125 equivalent TC Max, will set you back €5,000. So with a bit of luck, you'll probably hit the road on one of these for somewhere around about the 4,000, 4,500 mark, but don't quote me on that. Okay, and that brings me to the end of today's show, but just a couple of reminders before I sign off. I forgot the mirrorless vans thing, didn't I? I told you I was a bit chaotic this morning with people ringing doorbells and the pictures not going. Yes, I was going to talk about mirrorless vehicles. Yes, now I got a tip off the other day, if I can find the thing that I wrote, that somebody had their first run out in a mirrorless truck, and what they had found was that the system from their perspective as a driver appeared to be as his explanation was, bloody awful. He said, from the driver's perspective, the big plus is that there's no longer a huge blind spot caused by what he described as half an acre of mirror sticking out. And he said that makes it hard to see approaching bikes on a roundabout. But he said, because of the angles that the cameras cover, there is a large area beside the cab which is not covered by the wide angle camera. And he said basically the driver could easily lose sight of a motorcycle by in this blind spot. And one other point he made is, with mirrors, you can extend the range that the mirror gives you by moving your head, simply to change your own angle into the mirror. And he pointed out that he tried that, of course, because it's instinctive with his camera, and it makes no difference at all. The camera angle is absolutely fixed. The picture is not going to change. And he made one other point as well, which also struck me as important. When you are motorcycling up alongside a truck, you can see the driver turn his head and look in the mirror. And though I said before, the fact that the driver is looking in a mirror is absolutely no guarantee that the driver has seen you in that mirror. What it does show is at least he's looking in your direction. What you can tell is negative information. If the driver's head is not looking in the mirror, then there's absolutely no way that he knows you're there. So the problem with the cameras is that you cannot see the driver turning his head to check what's alongside through those mirrors. So basically, you will never know whether the driver's looking or not. And basically what he said as a truck driver is, have a think about what you're doing and be a little bit more cautious about filtering, and don't get anywhere near the corners of the cab. The moment you see a van or truck with cameras rather than mirrors, because they will not spot you as in the driving seat. All right, okay. So that genuinely is the end of the show today. The thing I just wanted to finish off with was a couple of reminders, of course. Don't forget the free Friday webinars. They've been reasonably well attended. The idea is to help out some maybe less confident, less experienced riders with some preparation for themselves and the bike. On Friday, I'll be looking at brakes and wrist fitness. Secondly, this would also be a great time to start catching up with my growing collection of 60-second safety better biking videos. They're all premiered here on my Facebook page, but they're a little bit hard to find, so I suggest you go over to my YouTube channel, which is Survival Skills UK. I'm up to number 26 over there. Don't forget the latest tips on Tuesday and skills on Saturday posts are now dual posted to my Ko-fi page, ko-fi.com/survival skills, where they will be indexed as well. And if you become a supporter over there from just £3, you can also open up the archive of well over 300 other posts. And last but not least, there is the email newsletter going out as well. So, okay, that's it for today. Stay safe out there. Sue has said, saw something on Facebook today about camera mirrors. It could well be the same item, Sue. It has kind of been going the rounds of bike groups. But yes, something to watch out for there. Right, okay. Thanks everybody for looking in again. Stay safe out there, and hopefully see you on Friday for the webinar, or if not, on Sunday for the next Elevenses. Take care out there on the road. Bye.